Thank you. My interest in water did not start with this campaign. I was one of the original people with Mr. J.A. Fortenberry from New Deal, Cotton Jenner, who made trips to Austin to try to prove that the surface owner owned the water under his land. And our interest was to preserve it for agricultural use because New Mexico had a plan where the state of New Mexico owns all of the water underground and in the rivers. So it was a battle that we worked on. I was farming. I was not in politics, but I was interested in trying to protect our underground water rights, primarily for the benefit of agriculture at that time. As a result of some of that experience, I recognized we needed to have some method to protect water use from our own users, such as spacing of irrigation wells, not overdrawing limited areas. And I was a volunteer worker who raised, the only farmer I know of that raised money to help create High Plains Underground Water District. Because the conservation is all we can talk about. No one of the three of us can tell you how to create water. If either one of the two could do that, then I'm going to endorse their plan if they prove it successful. And I think he would too. So I will continue my efforts, and every vote that we've ever had on water conservation or whatever was recommended by the local people to benefit the water use in West Texas, I've supported it. So I've got a 30-year history of supporting the conservation of water and use of water to the best ability to benefit our area. So I'll continue that. And I don't have to promise you anything except to do what I've been doing ever since I've been in the legislature. Thank you.
Jack, I think that's a really important question, and I appreciate you bringing up the subject. I appreciate Delwin's history in water. He certainly has been a leader and was a leader in the early days of water conservation. There's really two eras in water law and water policy in Texas, though. Everything before 1997 and everything from 1997 forward. And I'm not going to sit up here and argue about who said the word water first after they filed for office. But I do want to talk to you a little bit about water policy and my experience in that area. In 1997, the legislature passed something called Senate Bill 1, which is the landmark water law that we're working under, okay? There was one amendment that went on that bill in the Senate that was not drafted by the bill's author. It was offered by Senator Duncan. I was fortunate enough to help him draft it. It had to do with the powers of local groundwater districts. Zoom out for a minute. There's really two issues in water: municipal water and ag water. At least out here, those are the two issues. In other parts of the state, you get river flows, beach erosion, etc. Our beach erosion question is usually a little different, involves wind, not water. But basically out here, you've got ag water and everything else, okay? From a municipal standpoint in the city of Lubbock, we are blessed to have a city council. John's here tonight. I think that we all ought to say, look guys, thank y'all for taking a bullet. Nobody likes it when water rates go up, but the fact of the matter is those guys have been planning for the future. Is the Allen Henry project exactly what anyone would want it if we were drawing it from scratch? Maybe not, but those guys have taken what they had to deal with, and we're going to have water up here, and that's important. Where we've got to have some help is on the ag side. And I want to tell you a little bit about what I've done on that side. I get criticized. I've been criticized in earlier forums that he lobbied for golf courses. You know what we did? That was about 10 golf courses in Houston. You know what they wanted to do? They wanted to reuse some of that yuck water. That makes sense, right? We want to reuse yuck water on golf courses as opposed to drinking it. And the dadgum TCEQ had regs in place that were unreasonable that wouldn't let them do it. So we worked to get those replaced. I'm proud of that experience. I'm proud of that experience in fighting unreasonable regulations. I'm the only person up here who can tell you that I've helped form a groundwater district. I helped form the district in Mitchell County, wrote their rules, and I'm still active with that district. So my interest in groundwater goes back 12 years. I've heard questions raised about who knows about Zach and Boone Pickens, which blows my mind. With the help of the Texas Farm Bureau, I helped organize a group of 20 landowners to fight that power line, that he was going to lay the water line down. And I'm proud of that work, and I'm proud we got that stopped, and I never got paid a red cent for it, and it's the best thing I've ever done. So I'm proud of my history on water. It's a shame some folks want to try to twist it around. I've been a consistent advocate for water in West Texas and for reasonable water use everywhere across the state. That's what we got to have.
I'd like to know what the priorities are for each candidate and how they plan on achieving it if they're elected.
Number one priority for me is voter ID. I've said from the very beginning, we need to get a voter ID bill passed. We need to have that. I took a bill that had been once introduced in the past, simplified that bill, took out the parts I found objectionable so I could let voters know what my position was on the issue. You have that transparency. Voter ID is my number one issue. My number two issue is I think we need to do some serious shoring up of private property rights. We've got some entities that have the power of eminent domain that are abusing folks. Most of those are over in the Barnett Shale, some kind of fly-by-night pipeline outfits. But I think wherever property rights are at issue, we need to stand up. That's very important for me. Number three is water, long-term, the stuff I just talked about. And finally, I think the most important thing that we can work on long-term from an economic development standpoint is Tier 1 status for Texas Tech. Some people say it's going to take 6 years. Some people say that's going to take 20 years. I don't know how long it's going to take. I know that we need consistent leadership, somebody that can be there to get that ball across the line. That's how we got that freeway built, is we had consistent leadership in the Senate from Senator Duncan. And we've got to have that same kind of consistency on Tier 1 for Texas Tech.
My number one priority is going to be the fact that we're facing a $2 billion deficit before we ever start the next legislative session. I think the state's fixing to face one of the most challenging times it's ever faced. It's had this before, but I think the circumstances are a little different with what we're getting out of D.C. So I think fiscal responsibility, budgeting, going through the line item, finding the stuff that government should be doing, reprioritizing government back to those core functions, public education, infrastructure, public safety, and put the water in that mix. So I'd have to say that fiscal responsibility, fiscal budgeting, getting government back under control. And then we can talk about additional revenue sources once we are comfortable with the fact that it's spending money efficiently, wisely, and effectively, and we're getting the outcomes that we seek when we spend a tax dollar. That doesn't make sense to me to keep spending money and don't hold them accountable for what they do with it. So I think fiscal responsibility is number one, and I think it's going to have to be. It's going to consume, it and redistricting will consume the next legislative session, unfortunately, and that's probably the way it should be because they're the two hot buttons on the aisle. Water is my second biggest issue, but I think it dovetails right into fiscal responsibility because if you don't fund it, it will never come to reality. And you've got to have that funding for water to become a discussion and start putting it back into the locals. But you've got to have some means of how that's going to look when you're through. So water. And then my third one, I would agree with Zach that Tier 1 for this region is a must. And the reason that excites me is because that gives us opportunity to bring in private capital. I'm a big private capital guy. I think lots of things get done because private enterprise sees an opportunity to better, to have a profit maybe out of the process. And if tech can be a research vehicle to allow private to come in with their monies and do some things, that even makes our education system stronger. So Tier 1 is critical in the area of research. Again, that goes back to water. I sound like a broken record. Everything's going to get back to water if you're talking to me because research and all the things that water has to give to this region stops with fiscal and then at the Tier 1 level. I will say one thing. I do agree eminent domain is an issue, especially if you talk about water and you start about things. The thing that concerns me is when you have an attorney background or a lawyer background, you will typically defend whatever side's writing the checks those days. And Zach is very proficient, I think, in those areas. But he reflects both sides of that equation on numerous occasions in his past. So what concerns me is that training, does it give you an objectivity to be able to do the eminent domain properly? Because he's represented both sides, depending on who's hiring. So that eminent domain's private, I mean, is very strong to me, but when I've had a background of just representing both cases, I don't know that that's a plus or a negative there, but it's just something that gives me pause. That's my three priorities.